Democrats and most people in the media are deluding themselves, saying, well, it's all going to be okay after 2026 when the Democrats retake the House. Wake up, people. When the edges decide, was 2024 the last free election America will ever see? Was 2024 the last year Americans will be able to vote freely? In the past 10 months, if the past 10 months are the roadmap, democracy may not survive the next two elections. A Supreme Court ruling has essentially declared the president immune from prosecution for official acts, opening the door to unchecked political targeting. If former FBI Director James Comey can be indicted for disloyalty, what stops federal prosecutors from indicting or arresting every leading Democrat polling ahead in September 2026? Oh, TJ, that couldn't possibly happen. Oh, couldn't it? If federal agents can shoot a Chicago minister in the head with a pepper ball for praying during a protest, why couldn't Get Out the Vote volunteers in swing precincts face the same law and order tactics on Election Day? If the Supreme Court refuses to limit presidential power, why couldn't a president ignore term limits or reject unfavorable vote counts, claiming divine or constitutional authority? Because America is evenly divided, mass fraud isn't required. You just have to adjust a few things, a few precincts, a few states, a few little areas. Just a few arrests, a few ballots thrown out here, a few intimidated officials there, and the outcome can tilt permanently. Democracy doesn't end with a coup necessarily. It ends by paperwork, precedent, and fear. Democrats and most people in the media are deluding themselves, saying, well, it's all going to be okay after 2026 when the Democrats retake the House. Wake up, people. This administration is going to use brute power, brute force to tilt the election. Oh, we'll still have elections. But if you simply use the power of the Justice Department to indict, arrest, or attack any close running Democrat in the polls, guess who's going to win? If you send goons to swing precincts and Democratic precincts to intimidate or perhaps shoot bullets, rubber bullets and smoke bullets into people's heads, that's going to scare people away. They're not going to risk their lives necessarily to cast a vote. That could easily be enough to give MAGA all the votes it needs for 2026, 2028, and beyond. Let's dig a little bit deeper here. This is one area where I guess I'm out of the mainstream when it comes to what a lot of people in the media are saying, centrist political observers, and certainly I'm out of the mainstream with what Democrats are saying these days. They continue to delude themselves into thinking, well, this is the natural ebb and flow of politics. And okay, Reagan followed Carter and Clinton followed Bush. And then you have Obama. It's just natural. No, we are in extreme times. We are much more like a situation where Ferdinand Marcos took over and imposed a dictatorship in Philippines. We are much more like what happened in Hungary when Viktor Orban came to power through an election and then systematically shut down the media, shut down opposition, harassed and attacked. Oh, they still have elections. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Very similar to what happened to Russia. It's easy to forget now, but when the Soviet Union fell, it seemed like this was going to be some kind of a democracy, and Putin shut it down. It happened in Italy in the last century. It happened in Germany. And it can happen here. We have seismic changes to our political landscape. And people are deluding themselves thinking it's just the same old, and it's going to be ebb and flow. And, our vote will count next time. Why do you think your vote's going to count next time? What we know for certain is if it comes down to, let's say, the presidential election, if it comes down to anything close to what happened in 2020, we know if there's a tie vote somewhere, the vice president is going to do 100% the bidding of the president. There's not going to be there are no Mike Pences in this administration. So we have a situation where the tie is always going to go to the MAGA crowd, but that's not the problem. The issue is more like, what if elections are close and things really come down to, let's say, 3 states in 2028? There's nothing you can do to convince me that this government isn't going to use its thumb to tilt the scales through direct intimidation for no other reason, just sicking the IRS. If you say every single person associated with this political campaign that appears to be winning in a swing district is going to be audited and they have to show up with all their taxes 3 weeks before the election day, that alone could be enough to distract people, to sap their resources, their energy. And that's a minor thing. We're not even talking about other extreme things like these gas bullets being shot in the heads of protesters. And let's define protest here. We're seeing every single day. Mike Johnson just did it yesterday, essentially saying anyone who shows up for No King's Day, anyone who is critical of the administration is essentially a part of a terrorist organization. I've said this before, I'll say it again. I don't think we're that far away from the Democratic Party itself being officially branded a terrorist organization. Now, if that happens, obviously it's going to be extremely easy for the Republicans to win every race. If you have to outlaw the Democratic Party, I don't see the Green Party or the Libertarian Party really, swooping in and taking over. But let's be clear, it doesn't take anything that extreme. It just takes fiddling with the margins. In 2020, Trump famously demanded that the Secretary of State in Georgia find him another 11,000 votes. Well, what if he just needs to have 50 or 60 local officials counting the votes in key cities, in key swing states in 2026, finding votes for him? Because we now have a mentality that says anyone who supports someone who's not Trump must be an illegal alien, must be a foreigner, must be a migrant, must be a terrorist. Therefore, if they did take the time to vote, just throw it away. That mentality is infecting election offices around this country, and they're going to take orders from above. And I do not mean some heavenly figure. I mean their dear leader, the great orange one. So that's why I think it's even more important to show up at mass protests, these No King Days protests, other protests, because history shows when a right-wing authoritarian dictator takes over, they can control the judiciary, they can control the media, they can take over major corporations, they can control a lot. The one thing they can't control is if there is mass protest in the streets. That's eventually what toppled Marcos, and it's toppled a lot of other dictators. So folks, get ready. Get your gas mask ready. Again, I'm not advocating anyone who is opposed to this administration use force. What I'm saying is get ready. Force is going to be used against you. And if you want your country back to anything close to what it looked like even a year ago, or under the Reagan administration, the Bush administration, you're going to have to fight for it. This idea of sitting back and saying, oh, well, can you see what he did today? It's not going to cut it, folks. He's counting on you doing that. He's saying, I'm going to do 20 or 30 crazy bat excrement, crazy things every day. 15 of them, I'm just doing it to own the libs and get them angry. Another 5, maybe I'll try, but another 10 of those, yeah, I'll do them, and I'll chip away at constitutional guardrails until I run everything. And then it's going to be too late. MSNBC will be given orders to read press releases from the White House and make Stephen Miller their head of news. We're headed to a situation where something like that is not going to be some dystopian nightmare cooked up by a Hollywood writer. It's going to be our own reality. SS says, could this be a bit fear-mongering? Yeah, I'm actually fearful. I'm fearful for our country. I'm fearful for the world. And sometimes you can fear-monger and it's not based on reality. You're just trying to get attention, and it's hyperbole. I don't think anyone can actually even use hyperbole anymore to describe what this administration is doing. Solomon says, paperwork tyranny, that's how democracy, it could be. Because you do have to give credit to Trump for one thing. His first term, when he came in, basically he was shocked and surprised. He basically told me, I had no idea I was going to win. I thought I could say, hey, I ran well against Hillary. I'd be more famous than ever, and I'd get more endorsement deals than ever. He basically had no clue that he was going to win. And so he just hired traditional Republicans to work for him who believed in cute little things called the Constitution. Well, he was ready this time. I mean, that 4 years off really gave him time to assemble a team and figure out how can we systematically dismantle democracy and impose a hegemonic, tyrannical dictatorship where we can rule forever. And they've been implementing it with extraordinary efficiency. I have to give them credit for that, if nothing else.